Okay, so I said my name is Howard Hebron. I am an alcoholic. There are very few people in our community who truly, truly need no introduction. And all I have to do is say two words, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So please welcome Ralph White.
Thank you, Howard. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic, and we are on page 60 in our big book. We're in the chapter 5, how it works. And toward the bottom of the page, we're going to go back over where we left off last week, and I'll read 2 paragraphs today instead of one. Being convinced we were at step 3, which is that we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understood Him. Just what do we mean by that? And just what do we do? The first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self propulsion. Each person is like an actor who wants to run the whole show, is forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, if only people would do as he wished, the show would be great. Everybody, including himself, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. In trying to make these arrangements, our actor may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self sacrificing. On the other hand, he may be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most humans, he is likely to have varied traits. We finished last week and we talked about the being convinced. And that right there gives me a clue on what it is I do in the first 2 steps, because it says being convinced, we're now at step 3. So apparently, turns out that steps 1, admitted that I'm powerless over alcohol and my life has become unmanageable. And step 2, came to believe a power greater than me could restore me to stand. Apparently, those steps are conclusions I draw based on my experience. And so the biggest, uh, the work on step 1, I'm always interested when I hear myself or somebody say, I'm doing the work. The work on step 1 was done when I was drinking. When I was drinking and using, I did the work on it. The full understanding of what took place while I was doing the work, I find that out when I read the doctor's opinion, when I read Bill's story, when I read There is a Solution, when I especially go into more about alcoholism, I'm able to connect the dots. I'm able to realize, no, the reason that you drank more than you intended to when you went to happy hour was not because you changed your mind when you said, I got to be home at 8. Then when it got to be 7:30, damn, I changed my mind. I'm just going to stay the rest of the night. No, what happened, Mr. White, is there was something in you physically separating you from other people. We call that an allergy. Really? An allergy? Yeah, not like other allergies. Other allergies, like allergies to peanuts and allergies to shellfish, make you break out in a way that's super uncomfortable and you go out of your way to avoid it. That's why it's hard for you to wrap your head around this allergy deal. This allergy shows up, this uh, abnormal reaction to, in this case, beverage alcohol. This reaction shows up is when I drink, I get thirsty. That's unnatural. Most people quench it. Most people drink, get a tipsy feeling, they're cool. When you get it in you, it sets off something we're going to call phenomena, because we can't quantify it, we can't see it, but it only happens in the people that it happens to. We call that the phenomena of craving. Oh, okay. But even though I gave it vocabulary when I was reading, the actuality of it happening to me happened in my experience. You know what I'm saying? It happened. So I did the work on step 1 in my experience. When I came in here, anybody ever see Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead? And Things to Do in Denver When You Said, they had a running line, give it a name. And so when I get in the big book Alcoholics and that's what I do with a lot of my experience. I'm able to give it a name, right? Um, And so and step two is also a conclusion I draw based on my experience. Really, came to believe a power greater than me could restore me to sanity. If it ain't a power greater than me, I'm in big trouble. I took it out of desperation. How did I draw that conclusion? Well, I tried to stop myself. How did that work? I had willpower. How'd that work for you? Kept getting loaded. Okay, I tried to stop myself with self-knowledge. Went into treatment 1 or 2 times, found out it's the first one. Just don't take the first one. Self-knowledge. How did that work for you? Kept getting loaded. I tried fear. I'm scared to get back out there. I'm scared to keep wrestling with the gorilla. I'm scared that'll hold me. I know. Kept getting loaded. I tried making money. I tried falling in love. I tried starting a family. I tried having a baby. I tried physical exercise. I tried playing softball. I tried acupuncture. I tried a number of things. Kept getting loaded, kept getting loaded. If it ain't no, and a boss threatening me. If you come in here, if you miss one more day late, in the next 90 days, you might as well just keep your stuff. I'm still in the motel the morning after payday, the week after I got that warning. My old lady looked at me, dude, if you don't straighten up, you're going to have to get out of here. Kept on. If I couldn't stop my baby, I wanted to be a dad with everything in me, couldn't stop me. So no human power. And that didn't happen because I read it. That's not why I found out no human power could relieve me of my alcoholism. I found out in my experience. I looked at my baby and I wanted to be a dad with everything in me. I looked at my wife and I loved my wife. I looked at my mom. I hated breaking her heart. I listened to the boss. I had a great job. Couldn't stop. But you gave it a name when I looked in here. I didn't know that was so no human power. That didn't take place because I read about it. That took place because that's the truth. Moms, baby, judges. I'm not a going to jail kind of. I go to jail on petty stuff, but I really ain't a penitentiary go to jail kind of guy, But no human power could stop me, you guys. So those are conclusions I draw based on my experience. Book helps me give voice to my experience and helps me to see my experience for what it was, because I can't tell the truth from the false. That's one of the characteristic features of an alcoholic of my type. And so that helped me to see, oh, okay, that's what that was. And so if I'm convinced of those two things, now I'm convinced, and that puts me squarely at the third step. And we do a lot in our book where we are at this point. We've been reading, and so we went through forwards, prefaces, we went through doctor's opinion, Bill's story, there is a solution, more about alcoholism. All of those were primarily concerned with our first step. In we agnostics, that's our second step primarily. And so now we get into chapter 5, and apparently we're still building up and leading to this point now says being convinced. We standing on the threshold of our third step, which was we decided to turn our will and our life over to God as we understand. The hell are you talking about? Turn my will and my life over to God as I understand him. A, I don't understand him. And B, what the hell is this? What do you mean by that? Turn my will and my life over. What do you mean by it, sir? And what do I do? Okay. Well, check this out, Ralph. The first requirement for you to walk into this, uh, Bill has a lot of imagery in his description of the steps. And so part of one of the running themes is building a structure. And so he talks about cornerstone, keystone, foundation. He talks about an arch. And if you will, we were getting ready to walk through, we're going somewhere, right? And where we're going is I'm leaving me and I'm entering at first the unknown. You're describing it as I'm turning my will and my life over to the care of this power greater than me, is what you're telling me. I ain't got this power greater than me yet. I'm running from. And so in the third step, you guys, for me, and the way I perceive it, I don't go into it so much walking toward the light. I said that last week. I go toward it. I'm running from the fire initially. My initial reason for doing this third step is not because I want to be this virtuous guy. Me and some other people could have a whole different motivation. I don't come at it out of virtue. I don't come at it out of wow, I've decided to pursue this monastic lifestyle. I don't come at it as I come at it as there, my behind is on fire. I need a fire extinguisher. I need, a fireman that's got an extinguisher. And so I come because my behind's on fire and I'm running from. So in the third step, I don't know if it's so important whether or not your motivation is you're walking toward or running from. It's sending me in the same direction either way. And so I go into that third step, and the first requirement for me to get involved. He says, Ralph, what do we mean and what do we do? Well, the first thing, if you want to find out what we mean by turn my will and life over to the care of God as I understanding, the first requirement is, I'm convinced, and it says that any life run on self-will. For me, the way that I broke it down, I'm still full of selfishness and self-centeredness, guys, especially before I even embark on this process. And so the first thing I do, I have to be convinced that my life run on my will can hardly be a success. I know it's reading, and I'm not disputing how it's written, but for me to take this walk, okay, am I convinced that me running my life is unsuccessful? Well, let's look at the evidence. This ain't the same evidence for everybody, but it made it a whole lot easier for Ralph White to step through than maybe for somebody else. Because when I looked at, let's look at where my life run on my will has got me. Well, I'm 33 years old. I don't have a driver's license. Not good. I don't have any other form of ID. Not good. I'm sleeping in the back of my mother's garage, often because I can't get in the door because I'm coming in so late. That's not someplace I wanted to end up at 33 years old. I didn't know where my little girl was enrolled in school, and I didn't know where my family was living. Had not thought that that was the place I wanted to end up. That was not, I'm walking the aimless walk at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every day. I have no valid address. I have no goals. I have no idea. And here's the kicker, you guys. I've shared with you a bunch of the externals and the material, and that's big. Don't diminish that. That's what gets most of our attention at first. Most of us don't come in here looking for the spiritual thing. Oh, well, but okay. In addition to that, I also didn't have, but here's another thing that I was missing that I tell you got my attention too. I had lost the power of choice over whether or not I'd be chasing it when the sun came up, and I stopped caring about it. That scared me when I stopped caring about what I had become. I used to lay down on my mother's living room floor at the end of a night or at the end of a run, and I'd cry. And I'd ask myself what happened to me. And there came a time I stopped asking myself what happened to me. And I think that is the true surrender when I stopped. My friend Joe C. out of Florida says, I quit quitting. I didn't even tell myself I'm gonna come up out of it. I'm like this, and it's just gonna be like that. Scared me to death. Hadn't looked at myself full face in the mirror in over a year. I would say the evidence showed that my life run on my will could hardly be a success. And the cold piece about this, you guys, this was not a phase I was going through. In 1976, I used to think this is a phase I'm going through and I'm outgrowing. Me and all my boys in college, I happen to be, some people say they normal people don't drink. I happen to run with a crew that look just like me. They're described in our chapter. There is a solution in the paragraph that's right before, but what about the real alcoholic? They're the heavy drinker. And I thought when I grow up, graduate from school, when I come out of college, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to come up out of this phase and I'm going to straighten up and I'm going to fly right. That was 76. Well, now it's 86. And I ain't came up out of that phase. It is no longer a phase, ladies and gentlemen. That's my life run on my will. And So I was convinced that my life run on my will could hardly be a success. What else is that telling me when it's talking about being convinced that my life run on my will and hardly? Apparently, we're going to talk about something else in this third step. We're going to talk about, and here's the crux of it. What we're going to talk about, we get concerned and we spend a lot of time on, I wonder what God's will is for me. I wonder what his will is. What does it look like? And I get scared in the third step. I'm not going to have to be walking around in a white polyester suit, setting up a tent on the street corner preaching. My friend Strange used to say that. And he said, damn, I don't know why I'm worried about that. That'll be better than the way I was living anyway. But here's the deal. I don't think, particularly when I'm brand new, having never encountered this stuff before, I don't think that I need to be overly concerned with what God's will is for me when it says the first requirement is I be convinced that my life run on my will can hardly be a success. I think initially the walk into the third step is the walk away from Ralph's will. That is the initial entry point, new friends. Worry about as we go through this process of subtraction, as we go through this process of ego reduction, as we go through this 12th, the rest will fall off. But initially, it's step away from your life. It's like when your car has a lot, step away from the car, step away, step back up, And so this part right here is it's extremely instructive when we read that first sentence about what it is I'm doing in the third. So apparently there's another will that runs parallel or runs at the same time or runs in addition or opposition to God's will. Huh. One of the things that differentiates us from the animals and the rest of the planet is we've been gifted with something that distinguishes us as from any other animal on the planet. We've been given free will, and that free will generally for me has been expressed not as a pursuit of God's will, but as me and my will. And so later on, when we get into this, it's going to talk about, I'm going to do a spoiler alert right here. It's because I don't know if I'll be around when we get to that portion, but it's going to talk about Ralph's self-will expressed as playing God. Really? Whole deal, sir. You are consumed with the world revolving around you. Bill paints a picture, a wonderful picture of what Ralph's will looks like. And he says, Ralph, you are the kind of guy that, and he remember sometime in here, he's going to talk about my life being a drama hereafter in this drama of life. And so he uses that imagery too. And so you're the kind of guy that goes through life as if you're an actor, but you, unlike most actors, if you see Nicholson or if you see De Niro, they get a script, they go remember it, and they go and they say they like, but you're not like that. No, you're not like that. When you get your lines, you think you Scorsese, you think now you probably have a walk-on part. You don't even have a speaking role, but because you in Rob's play, but you never in Rob's play. You never in Howard's play. You never in Tina's play. You never in Kathy's play. All of them are always in yours. And when they're in yours, you give them their life. Now, they, of course, that's why I'm always in collision, because they, of course, don't know that they are supposed to be in your play. They're saying their lines in their own thing, right? So I'm always in collision because curiously, I know you'll find this hard to believe. Not only are you guys always in my play, I'm always the leading man. I'm always the leading man. Usually it's a monologue. It's a one man, you guys are extras, and I'm the director and I'm holding the camera and I'm setting the lights. I'm selling the popcorn. Imagine somebody running around. It's exhausting. Well, somebody might think that's an exertive example. Think of my life. That's why I'll be tired. That's why I get in. And so I'm always colliding with other people, even when my motives are right. My old lady, I might have a mate or a spouse and I'm sweating them all the time. Why don't you stop? Because it's always something that is not a challenge for me. I don't understand why it's a challenge for you. Why you always smoking all them damn cigarettes? And then me, I'm just thinking about you when I'm sweating you or I'm grilling you or I'm doing, and it's always something that for some, and don't let me have recently overcome something. Oh, now why you gotta eat like that? Well, I shouldn't have went there because I ain't overcame none of that. But just for purposes of illustration, So, oh, I wish we had more. Howard, I apologize because I, I get excited and it's so much meat in here, you guys. But uh, so let's walk through the third step. I only have 12 seconds to go. So again, you know what, you guys? What do we say every week? You should know it by now. You just got to come back next week.